I think this line should actually be a little higher. But because Boise was one of the teams that got a bye, because Penn State had to play, I actually make this line 14. Boise State, in my opinion, is probably a top 30 team. They're not a top 4 team in the country. They just happen to only lose to Oregon by 3 in game number 2 and then run the rest of the table. But when I look at the matchups in this game, they really do favor Penn State. You look at Penn State and the talk is James Franklin can't beat a top 10 opponent. And again, I don't consider Boise a top 10. If you look at their 2 losses, at home against Ohio State and in a neutral setting against Oregon, the reason they lost those games is they get exposed with talented outside players, fast running backs, fast wide receivers. Well, guess what? That is not Boise. Boise is going to pound it to you with Ashton Genty, 2,500 yards, 7.3 yards per carry. Maddox Matson, his YPA is on the low side. It's only 7.5. Drew Aller is 8.9. So there aren't a lot of long passes. And when you look at Boise State, they did hold Oregon to a season low 252 yards. Yes, they got up going to Oregon and playing there. But look at the other teams this year. 461 yards at Georgia Southern. They allowed 507 yards at home against Utah State. They allowed 483 yards at San Jose State. So originally I thought I liked the under in this game, but when I looked at the matchups, both favoring Penn State, my top opinion here would be Penn State team total over 33.5. You got to lay $1.15 with that. But the Nittany Lions do get it done today, and I think they get it done on the offensive side and able to shut down Boise, leaving them some short fields to score more points. Again, you have Arizona State, a team that is way overranked in the rankings. And then you could say, well, who has Texas beaten that was a quality team? You look at Texas against Clemson. They gave up 412 yards, but only 76 yards rushing. Why is that important? Again, while Boise may have the best running back, Scadaboo may actually be the better back, with 1,568 yards, 6.0 yards per carry against much tougher competition. Just FYI, if you look at Sagarin's strength of schedule, Boise played the number 89 schedule, so you have not been tested. Arizona State has been an ATS darling this year. They've gone 11-2 against the spread. Their losses at Texas Tech, 30-22. At Cincinnati, 24-14. The way Texas finished the season, I wasn't impressed in either of the Georgia games. They haven't played a wild schedule. Their offense is, though, top 10, averaging 97 yards per game more than their opponents allowed. Their defense is number 2, holding their opponents to 129 yards per game under what they allow. You look at Arizona State's averages, 41 on offense, 15 on defense. Still a quality team, but not the team that deserves to be here. Against Iowa State in the championship game, a 464 to 341 yard edge, but they were +3 turnovers. So what might have been their best win of the season, we have to put an asterisk around it, because if you're +3 turnovers, you're likely to win. I think it's about 85% of your games in college football. So that win isn't as good as they had. I like Texas, but I like Texas early here. When we get to the second half of these games, we're going to see new scenarios. We're going to see trick plays. We're going to see teams try to do things they haven't do. Give me Texas to prove they are a legitimate top 10 offense, top 10 defense, can handle this opponent. And remember, they just played here. So they're familiar with the setting, gives them a little bit of an advantage. Color me the Longhorns for this matchup on New Year's Day. Oregon's undefeated, but that doesn't matter to me. I have Ohio State power rated as the best team, and while I can't match your generosity, Prez, giving out a free 5% play, Ohio State was an actual client release for mine, so I will give you that for free as well. So you're getting 2 client plays for free so far today. You go back to the Ohio State game when they visited Eugene, and you said Oregon won. But let's remember this. Ohio State was a 4.5-point favorite in that game. There were 7 lead changes. The game came down to a last-minute field goal. That game could have gone either way. If Ohio State had won that game, they probably would be a 6-point favorite. So if a game is that close, 7 lead changes, and comes down to a last second play, I really don't give Ohio State a negative or Oregon a positive for winning that game because it is basically a coin flip game. There's no great play you made, there's no poor play you made. But, when I do look at what Ohio State's done on defense, only one opponent has topped 275 yards against Ohio State, and that was that true road game in Eugene. Now they have a neutral setting. When you look at their defense, to me, it is the best defense in football, and it is a defense that's going to be able to slow Oregon down. I'm not going to say they shut them down. I'm going to say they slow them down. You look at Oregon's 2 worst performances on defense, 467 to Ohio State, and in their last game, they allowed Penn State in a neutral setting to get 518 yards. Better upside for the Ohio State defense, better upside for the Ohio State offense. These teams are elite as far as stat profiles go. Each team played 6 winning teams, but Ohio State does have slightly better edges on yards per game diff, points per game diff, and yards per play diff. If both teams play a great game, Ohio State wins by a touchdown plus. If both teams play even games and the turnovers are even, Ohio State wins the game. I believe Oregon's going to have a positive turnover situation to pull the upset. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm on Ohio State. My client's on Ohio State. And if you believe and want to follow, you'll be joining me on the Ohio State Buckeyes to beat Oregon New Year's Day.
This play goes tonight, Oklahoma -6.5, a total of 217, 16.5. How do we bet this one?
I think there's a few different ways you can look at this. I'll talk about the spread last, but first I want to read a quote. It was Dante being asked about the longer shifts in his minutes, like letting him be on the court longer periods of time. He said, I think the most important time of that shift is the first 4 or 5 minutes in that first quarter. Just pushing the pace, trying to change the game, whether it's we come out slow, pick it up, and we come out strong and just take it to another level. I think that's what we did at the end of the first, start of the second tonight. Just pushing the pace, make or miss, just pushing the pace, getting open, and just running. That's when you saw everybody get a little bit of energy and playing harder. You go and listen to the coach talk. He talks about the bench unit that they have out there. He says Josh gives them a transition runner, and he says those guys are just all playing real fast. And generally, Julius is pushing and getting us into stuff early. And you look at Julius, he mentions pace too. He says, I think our pace is up a little bit. It's creating easier looks in transition or early offense throughout the flow. So just got to keep up with that, et cetera, et cetera. What do we keep hearing? Pace, pace, pace. So, yes, we have 2 really good defensive teams. When you're facing a good defense, that's what you want to do. You want to get out and run so you don't have to be against a set defense all the time. I look at the total for the full game. It's gone up from the opener of 215 to about 217. The first half, and I agree with the move, obviously, but the first half, I feel like you're getting a little bit of a discount. They opened at 105.5. You still can find that out there. And you look at both teams combined to average a little bit over 109 first half points per game compared to the 107 in the second half. So I like the first half over 105.5. I think they'll be running even with that good defense. And the second part of this, the player prop. Randall over 11.5 rebounds and assists. They've been playing them more with that bench unit. And he's had a lot more success. The team has looked better. A little bit of that quote that I read, it was a reporter asking him about his recent uptick in assists. And it's because they're playing faster, and it's just a better flow. Another reporter asked him again at the end of the interview about the bench group and how it has helped him with assists and seeing the floor. And he said, it's different. Our pace is really up with that group. We have multiple guys who can push the ball, run the floor, shoot, we cut, we move a lot. So for me, I'm almost like a point forward with that unit. The floor is spread. I can get downhill, attack, get in the paint, create for myself, create for others, and initiate early offense in transition and play at the top of the floor and all those things. So all that points to what we've seen from Randall lately. He's cleared his rebounds and assist line in 4 of his last 5 games. I like it over 11.5 tonight. And if I have to pick a side, I think the Timberwolves are trending in the right direction. They probably can hang around tonight. Yeah, I'll make it fast for these two. It's pretty simple for the Laker game. He's already been playing well. He's already been having a lot of usage. Now they've traded away D'Angelo Russell, and we have to look at Austin Reeves. Over the number just seems way too low. Like I think this is one we can even ladder. His assist number is 5.5. If you look at the games last season he played without D'Angelo Russell, there were 6 of them. He averaged 8.5 assists. If you look at the one he played this season without D'Lo, he had 10 assists in that game. So I think this one is pretty simple at 5.5. That's easy to ask him to get 6 tonight. I like Wemby over 3.5 3-pointers. He's been hunting threes for real. He's hit this 6 of his last 7 games. In those 7 games, he's averaging 11.6 attempts. So if you just look at his average, he's shooting 36%. Should get about 4.2 if he's having 11.6 assists. Last 5 games, Clippers are number 1 protecting the paint, but they're allowing the 3rd most above the break threes and the 10th most corner threes. So combine that with the way Wemby's been hunting them and shooting them, I like that play quite a bit. The Spurs, I did want to mention, they've covered 6 games in a row. And my first thought was, how many of these games are they favorites, actually expected to win? And 3 of them, they were favorites, and they won and covered. So this is a situation where they have more rest than their opponent before the game and after the game. In situations like that, that means that they can go all out to me. The Clippers did play yesterday. They could sit some players. I think Norman Powell played 40 minutes. Zubac and Harden played 35 plus. I think the Spurs are rightfully favored in that game. And if I was going to play anything on the total, I just know that the Spurs have been they've been a pretty good first half under team. I mean, if I want to look at the last 5 games, they combined for 9-1 to the first half under. Both top 5 defensive rated teams last 5 games. And the last meeting was just like this. They scored 95 in the first half, but 217 for the game. So if you like under, I would get in and get out.
Later on today, Tage Thompson under 2.5 shots on goal. He's gone under in 10 out of 11. He's only averaging 3.8 shot attempts the last 10 games, so it's tough to get to 3 shots actually on goal when you're only taking 3.8, and Dallas is 4th in shots on goal allowed. 3 o'clock start game in NBA. Take a look at Chris Middleton over 13.5 points. There's 2 things to know about this. One, last 16 games against the Pacers, he's gone over this total. He absolutely torches the Indiana Pacers. He had a 42-point game against them a couple years ago. The other thing, Giannis is questionable. Wait a little bit before the game and see if Giannis is ruled out. If he is ruled out, you're hammering Chris Middleton. Middleton goes over this point total every time Giannis plays. But even if Giannis does play, I think you're still good to take Chris Middleton over the Pacers. And then it is the first week of golf. You guys know that is near and dear to my heart. It's the Sentry. This used to be called the Tournament of Champions, but we do have golf content that's going up later today, and I'll give you a free play on that. Sung J Im to finish in the top 20. He's finished top 20 in all 4 years playing here. 3 of those years, he was top 10. He was 5th here last year. The last 6 months, he's 4th in total strokes gained in this field. I expect a big year from Sung J M. He's finally settling into his new kind of professional career in the next stage of his life. So Sung J M, top 20, minus 165.
I want to tell you straight out, in this game, I like the Steelers. It sounds square, catching them as home dogs after having beaten Cincinnati in Cincinnati. But I just think that the price you're paying on Cincinnati, having the lay on the road, to me, I just don't like it. It just doesn't make much sense to me. I get it. I think there's some recency bias involved. You have the Steelers coming in off 3 straight losses. You have Cincinnati coming in on 4 straight wins. But we're supposed to kind of put that to the side a little bit and almost take advantage of that recency bias. Again, for Cincinnati to go into Pittsburgh as road favorites, I mean, you're talking that on a neutral field, they got to be upwards of 3.5, 4.5 point favorites. I just don't see it. I like the Steelers. I'm hoping this one stays around that 1.5 to 2.5 range so I can tease them up because, again, it's going to be one of those weekends where the weather will matter. We're in early January, more or less, and I think weather's going to start to be an issue in a lot of these places. Lower totals, points mean more. If I could tease it, that's what I'm looking to do, but I like Pittsburgh at home.